Welcome to Mothers Illuminated, where we help light the pathway through motherhood. I'm Michelle McCartney here at the Co-work of Londonderry. Co-work of Londonderry is a great place to get some work done, have office-based, conference room, workshops, business for business owners, podcast rooms, and lots of great benefits for members. You can get more research done at the londonderry.cowork.com, and co-work is spelled C-O-W-E-R-C. So I am joined today with Victoria and Kimberly from the Women's Defense League of New Hampshire. And today we're going to talk about self-defense for especially moms, because I think that they're like the most vulnerable people out there. So I think we can first start off, just you guys can kind of tell us a little bit about the league and what you guys do.
All right. I'm Victoria Sullivan, and I am the league chairperson. I've been a part of the Women's Defense League for 5 or 6 years, 5 years now, I think. I don't know. We're just a tight-knit crew, so.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of training. It's only women that train only women. And, we find that women come in, they're just more comfortable training with women. And we train women from all walks of life, from like mothers and daughters come in to elderly women that come in. And, we have a full array of women that come in for training. Some that have used firearms before, and some that have never touched a gun before.
Yeah.
And we founded the organization in 2014 because we wanted a local grassroots organization for women in the state. There was national ones that had come around, but we wanted something that was completely local. So we not only provide training, but we also fight against gun control at the State House and for, Second Amendment rights at the State House. So we've been very heavily involved in that as well.
That's actually how I found them. I'm a former state legislator, so they came up and we were fighting arm in arm for the constitutional carry that we got passed when Governor Sununu came in.
Yeah, that was the first bill he signed.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Great. So first of all, where is it located? Like, where's the physical location? And do you guys have multiple locations throughout the state, or just the one?
Our office is located in Concord, and we use the Londonderry Fish and Game Club as our base club. That's where we teach all our classes. Well, shooting classes.
Yeah. And you guys have like situational awareness and other classes as well, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was thinking we could kind of start the conversation off with, some of the common attacks against moms and children. So obviously, like, I have a 2.5-year-old and a 2-month-old at home. And so my biggest fear is going out to like a grocery store and having my, car seat in one hand, my 2-year-old in the other, and then having somebody attack me. That's, I think, every mom's biggest fear. But quite frankly, I don't know if that's super common or if that's even something that I should be concerned about.
It's not super common, and we did have it happen at the mall just last year, where a woman was walking into the mall with her small child, and they were both abducted. They were found in a hotel room up in Vermont, and what we try to train women about, we always try to be so nice and polite as women and accommodating. If you feel like someone's in your space or there's anything happening that you're uncomfortable with, get really loud, really fast. So don't go with a guy because he says, he's come along with me. You need to be loud and just know that they want to do you harm if they're approaching you. So you might as well get loud and let people know what's happening, because they're usually cowards, right? So if you draw attention to them, they're going to split. Usually. So this poor woman was taken up to Vermont in a hotel room, and she was sexually assaulted. Her child was there for the whole thing, and luckily they lived through it, but they certainly didn't come out unscathed.
Yeah, that's a huge, one of the things self-defense people or situational awareness people will always tell you is do not get in the car. Do not go with anyone who is trying to attack you, who says just get in the car and I won't hurt you. Ever. Because that's huge. That's usually not a good ending.
Right.
Yeah.
But know your awareness. So when you've got children, and that's the hardest part. I mean, when you've got children, especially small children, you've got the car seat, and you've got, one in your hand, and they're talking to you, and you're watching the cars. You're watching for their safety.
Yeah.
You're not always aware of the person that's watching you, following you, and is about to make you the victim. You're so worried about your child, you're not aware of yourself. Right? So that's something that women need to be more aware of. And when you go into places, know all of the exits. Like like I said, women tend to be too polite. And if there's an emergency and it says like, don't use this door, employees only, there are no rules in an emergency.
Yeah.
You find any door and go out. If you're in the mall, that's why I trained my kids when I first started letting them go to the mall on their own.
Yeah.
Every single store in that mall has an exit out the back door. Every one. So the little part behind the counter that says employees only, you bust through that door and you get out because there's an exit everywhere.
Yeah.
And those are the things to keep in mind, because when you've got your children, you don't want to confront somebody that's in there to do harm, right? You want to get your children, get out, let somebody else take care of it if you possibly can.
Yeah.
That's your first line of defense, avoiding the situation.
That's the biggest thing, is situational awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't have children, piled on you.
Yeah.
If you just have a package or packages or something, just paying attention and understanding, what's going on around you
Yeah.
is a huge.
And this makes women really vulnerable. Your phone makes you very vulnerable, because people will look at it and start texting, and they have to check Facebook all the time or whatever social media they're on. So now you are absolutely consumed by this phone, and you have no idea what's happening around you.
Like tunnel vision.
Yeah, and I see women do it all the time. I live in Manchester, and I see them walking down the street in Manchester looking down at their phone. They have no idea if someone's in the alley, in a doorway, and if anybody's approaching them. They have no idea.
Yeah.
Get in. One thing we always teach too is get in the car, lock the doors before you check your phone.
Yeah.
Your phone can always wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in your own driveway, when you
Yeah.
get in your car, lock your doors, because it doesn't, just get into the habit.
Yeah.
And just get into that, because I didn't used to do that. Now I do, of
Yeah.
course. But that's it. There's just certain precautions you can take that are just sort of build layers to your own protection.
And the other side of that is cars now often, when you put it into park, will unlock automatically. So if you're not getting out of the car straight away, or even if you are, but you want to check your surroundings first, you relock the door, see what's going on around you, and then you unlock it when you're ready to exit your vehicle.
Or sometimes, I know mine, I have to press it twice to have all doors open. But if I only press it once, only the driver's side opens. So that's, something some people might not think of either. If you're unlocking your door on the other side,
Yeah, exactly.
and you're unsure, then you just opened it up.
Yeah.
So, it's all kinds of things like that to be aware of.
Yeah. Are there any sort of like products that could help, I guess, in those situations? So like, I would imagine baby carriers, being able to carry your baby instead of having a car seat that's heavy and bulky.
And it frees up your hands.
If you have, you need a free hand for sure.
Yeah.
But
if you
even
can.
there's a lot, like when my kids were babies, they're teenagers now, but which seems crazy. But when they were babies, they had the infant seat, and then they had just the frame that you would lock it in, like it was called a snap and go. It was just like a carriage frame, and you could pop it in there, right? So immediately your child is on wheels, your hands are free, and you're able to look around, know your situation, and you're not managing so many things at once.
Yeah, so a stroller type, but they have, pretty sure all the strollers now have
You
the
can just
snap
snap
and
it
go
in.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen the toddler leashes, and I don't know if they get a lot of hate, but I would imagine that would probably help with like child
Listen, if you have a runner,
You have a runner. I just had this conversation recently with someone.
Yeah.
And I used to be one of the haters of those things because I thought it was horrifying.
I-
And when my nephew was born, it wasn't an issue. But my niece was born, oh my God. She was a hellion.
That's
She
like
would
my
just
2-year-old.
she would just take off. So my sister got a cute little monkey leash.
Yeah.
It was cute, but my niece needed it.
Yeah.
I mean, she had to be, because she would just take off and we had no idea, and she wouldn't
and
respond.
especially if you have another child with you too,
Yes.
you can't just dart after the other one,
Yeah.
And
No, and she wouldn't respond. She was she's still a little bitch. Now she's a teenager. But it was helpful because otherwise she would just take off.
And having something that makes a lot of noise, like just something on your keychain that's a button, or even you can stick it onto the the handle of the stroller itself, so that it makes noise. If somebody approaches you, you don't want them
Some
around.
loud. There's some. It's like a personal alarm. And there's some that aren't that loud, but there's others that are super loud. And
You can get them at the dollar store. They're
Really?
and you can just press the button, and it's actually like a door alarm, right?
Oh.
But you can use it to just put on the stroller and press the button manually instead of having it go off when the doors separate, because there's a test button
I have
there.
never heard of that. That's so cool.
there's all kinds of. We teach a lot of this stuff in the Refuse to be a Victim class, because there's all kinds of things that you can use, again, just to build layers, extra stuff for protection.
Yeah.
I carry pepper spray. I took the training class before I started carrying because I was afraid I would get myself.
Well, that's something that women, a lot, not just women, a lot of people don't understand, is that you need to train with the pepper spray just like you would any other weapon. Because if you don't know how to use it and it doesn't come naturally to you in an emergency situation, a lot of them have a little safety lock that you have to move out of the way.
Yep.
And there's a lot in there, so you can practice outside.
Yeah.
So it's not one use thing. Also, they have an expiration date, and a lot of people don't know that. I was talking to my sister.
God, I
she was like,
forgot
I had
about
it for a really long time. There's an expiration date on those.
But I carry it when I walk my dog. I carry it because a previous dog had gotten attacked when I was walking. Her first walk I ever did after rescuing her. I took her on. A dog pulled off its run and attacked her.
Oh my gosh.
And I certainly didn't expect that.
Right.
And in that case, I could kick the dog in the face, and he ran off, and she was fine. But now I carry pepper spray because obviously I don't want to truly harm someone's dog. I just want it to get away from me.
And although we teach firearm safety, the first line of defense is not getting into the situation, right? So we teach situational awareness. The second line of defense is non-lethal if you can, if you have the time and you have the opportunity.
Depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But, you try to do non-lethal first if you can. If your life is in jeopardy in that moment, you do what you need to do to survive.
Right.
Yeah. And when you're talking about like non-lethal, I mean, obviously the pepper spray would be one of those, but what other options would there be?
Anything is a weapon.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking around here, like everything you have in this office can be used as a weapon.
Could be used to protect yourself.
Watch John Wick and see. John Wick uses everything as
wasn't it MacGyver that used to use
duct tape?
There's all kinds of personal defense type
the little
items.
bars that you can have on your keychain that works. You have one, right? You carry one.
I have my Kubaton. I always have.
Keys. Your house key you can use.
So this can not only help if your car goes in water, you can smash the windshield, but it's also very strong. Like a lot of times people, this is what we were taught when I was younger anyway, carry your keys like this. I don't know if you can see on the camera. Carry your key like this when you're leaving the mall or whatever.
Yeah, in between your fingers.
Well, guess what? This is way better.
Yeah.
You can hold on to it. I have brought this to places where I could not carry, not even pepper spray, but this I could, except not on planes, guys. They will take them.
And you can even,
really?
with this keychain,
if they
especially,
think
you
about
could
it,
even
realize it.
You could hold this and use the rest of them as a weapon. That's like amazing.
You're giving my husband more ammunition because he yells at me for that all the time.
Kim has her mace.
I was gonna say one of those swinging ball things. Yeah.
Actually, I could really. This would be harmful. But so it's super light. They're like a few bucks on Amazon, and it's enough to get someone away from you and run.
Yeah.
Or get away from the situation
And be loud. Like just don't be
always
quiet.
be loud.
Always be loud.
We don't have a problem with that.
No.
Yeah. And then do you guys have any sort of like tips and stuff for like child abduction type of things too? I mean, if somebody was trying to lure your child into a car and like say you're at a park or something and someone pulls up and they're trying to get your kid to get into the car.
Again, get loud because usually there's other people around. And
I would lose my mind. I can't give tips for that one because I would just go after that person before they even
It just comes back to them being cowards again.
Yeah.
And, too many people, and if you see something happening, help the person out. Too many people stand by with their phone to videotape what's happening instead of actually
like that woman who
assisting
was
the
just
person.
attacked in New York City. The guys closed the door while she was being attacked. They ended up getting fired. But they closed the door. She was being an elderly Asian woman was being attacked right in front of the door, and the guys inside just closed the door.
Oh my god.
They saw it. They were two big guys, and they did nothing. So, for the child abduction, it's the same thing. Be loud, scream, yell.
Call 911 as you're screaming because your location will go to the state police and they'll hear what's going on too. Like don't stop screaming at the guy to call 911. You can do both at the same time. And if there's a spectator there, ask them to call 911 for you.
Yeah, and a lot of the phones have the emergency.
Yeah,
now,
they do.
So you don't really have to like sit there and log into your phone. You just hit emergency, swipe, and go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I can't even imagine.
Well, and
any
to
mother,
avoid
I'm
that
sure.
situation, still, like I've been at the park and people are looking down at their phone. They're not watching their child, right?
Yeah.
The park is not a place to be looking at your phone. And I know a lot of moms get stressed and they think of the park as their time, but it's your time to also watch your child. Because that's a place where if you want to do harm to a child, you're going to go to the park. You're going to go where
children
kids
are.
Right, exactly.
running around, and everyone thinks somebody else is watching the kids, right?
Yeah.
And people don't know who goes.
Same at
who
the
belongs
beach
to who.
when there's
Same at
tons
the
of
beach.
people. I've been at the beach where there's tons of people, and it's like that scene in Jaws where the woman can't find her kid.
Yeah.
There's so many
Mom's
people.
Oh God,
there,
just
yeah.
seeing it.
I'm like, oh my
See,
God.
yeah.
Having PTSD from when, because it happens to all of us, right?
Yeah.
There's always the child that disappears. Seamus was my child. He always disappeared. So every time we would go, Buddy was the runner, Seamus disappeared.
Yeah.
But he was like Houdini. He would just be gone. And my other son always had like really curly hair, so he would run. You could kind of follow the curls, but this kid like just disappeared. So we would always, every time we went someplace, say, if we get separated, this is where we meet. So at Canopy Lake, it was the bubble house because they could follow the bubbles. They had like this house there that follows the bubbles, so they could follow the bubbles back to the house. And we had to collect Seamus from there on more than one occasion. Or you say, we're going into the water area now. Do not leave. We're not leaving you. Don't leave. If you can't find us, we're still here. Stand here, and we'll be looking for you here.
Yeah.
Because they go up into the water slides and stuff, and you lose sight
That's
of them.
true, yeah. Like at Disney World, any kind of big parks like that. Yeah.
So always have meeting places, but especially in parks like that, have them in each area that you go into.
Yeah. And what kind of I've seen like videos and stuff of people teaching their children how to use weapons and stuff like that for self-defense. At what age would you guys recommend something like that happening?
Oh my gosh,
A weapon.
As long as they're not going to use it on each other. But
Right.
Boys would probably use it on each other.
I have 2 boys, so everything was a weapon just from a young age. I mean, they would use sticks and things like that, as lightsabers or as swords or whatever. They just naturally do. But I think the biggest thing to teach your kids, again, is to be loud and don't go with anybody. And one of my sons, his name is Buddy. And so everyone called him Buddy. So I would say that doesn't mean people know you.
Right.
People...
Yeah, because somebody could say, hey, buddy.
Well, his kindergarten teacher was like, Victoria, you realize I have to learn all the boys' names now because I called them all Buddy. And now, that's not going to work. So, so we would have to make sure that he knew, don't ever go to somebody just because they say Buddy. They don't know you. You don't go to anybody unless we have identified that adult. And we had secret words or phrases. So if I couldn't pick him up at school, he would know which adults we could go to, but they had to give the phrase. And if they didn't give the phrase, they didn't leave with them. Yeah. So we had phrases that only we knew and the trusted people around us knew.
And I was going to say, going back to the name, I know I've also heard that that's a huge thing, too, is don't have, backpacks with the names on them or any sort of identification because they'll use that to trick the kids into thinking, oh, this person knows who I am.
Well, and something else, too, is the little stick figure people on your car.
On your car?
Yeah.
Don't have that, especially if you're a single mom. Don't have just a mom and your kids because
the sports things, too, it says the kid's name. It says what number they are. It says all kinds of things that they can identify. And people are proud of their kids and they like to put things on their car, but understand that you are taking a risk when you do that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Put it on your
fridge.
A lot of, be proud of your kid at home.
Right, yeah.
It's unfortunate, but there's a lot of evil people out there, and you don't know where they're going to decide to commit try to commit an act of evil. You don't know where. You could live in the nicest community on the planet. It doesn't matter if someone's evil and wants to do something horrible.
Yeah.
It just really, there's quiet places all over New Hampshire where bad things have happened because of evil people.
And because there's this false sense of security in the smaller places. You're probably more aware in Manchester, right? Yeah. But you go to a small town and you assume everything is safe. And really bad things have happened in really small towns.
Yeah, I remember when I first moved to
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon's the one that
everybody thinks of.
Always comes to that freaked me out.
I think that's the most terrifying, especially for moms, because it was random. They were not targeted, right? And so it was random, and that's scarier than someone going after somebody because they had some vendetta or bad will between the two of them.
Yeah. Because when it becomes random, it could have been you.
Right.
Exactly. That's why it's one of the reasons that self-defense is so important to us. Because besides the fact that it's a fundamental human right, especially if we're women alone, right? We have less of a chance excuse me, physically, to try to ward off an attacker. This was horrifying, but I did this for research. Listen to 911 calls with women on the phone with 911s. They replayed the whole phone call. And the women who had firearms became victims. The women who didn't have firearms became victims. The women who did were not victims.
Mm.
But I was literally, my husband's like, what's wrong with you? I was bawling because it was so
say, that's gotta
violent.
be rough.
Yeah.
It was violent and horrifying, but that really made me understand the importance, because you can call the cops. They're going to do their damn best to get to you as fast as they can.
Yeah.
But they're seconds away. They're minutes away when seconds count.
You are your own
Your
first
own,
responder.
your first respond. Yeah, exactly.
You are first person on scene.
Just like you have a fire extinguisher at your house, you're going to call the fire department.
Yeah.
But just in case, you can try to mitigate the damage before they get there. It's the same kind of thing. You don't want the cops to come there and be drawing a chalk outline of you because you didn't protect yourself.
And that's another, to avoid being in that situation, house alarms really are an effective way to let you know if somebody's in your house that shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, just the siren going off will make them leave.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's what happened with that Mount Vernon again. They were actually targeting someone else on the street, but they had a dog. So they went to this house instead.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
A couple houses, they targeted someone else, and then they were going to go to a different house, but 2 houses had dogs, is from what I understand. And they went to this house. They didn't have a dog. There was nothing there to sort of scare them off. Because, again, evil people are cowards. Yeah. They don't want to get caught. They don't want to get stopped. They don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
They just want to find the easiest target possible to commit a heinous act.
Yeah. And I was going to say, because I've also seen where they talk about, like, you know, ways to kind of deter people from breaking into your home. And that is one of them, is putting up a beware of, even if you don't have a dog, putting up a beware of dog sign to make them think you have a dog. But anything, that's what they say, is if you have anything out in the yard that indicates that some noise will be made, whether it's a sign for an alarm system, you don't even have to have the alarm system. But just
absolutely.
A dog leash
helps. A dog leash, the dog house.
Some people put a big dog bowl, like, of water, so it looks like you have a big, huge dog.
Yeah.
Others, I've heard where, single women or widow women who live alone have, like, what looks like work boots outside on the porch. You know what I mean?
So it looks like the husband
So it looks like there's a husband home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if you have, like, we have Comcast for our house alarm, and you can set that to be different things. So it can be a dog barking if someone opens the door instead of just an alarm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or if he actually has a fire alarm sounds. If you're like,
stop it. Oh, I might have to get that. I have Comcast.
Get some police sirens going, so it's like
my neighbors would lose their mind.
We used to have it set up to sound like a dragon. It made the dog crazy.
Oh, I love that one. Oh, I might have to do that.
Would growl. Yeah.
But yeah, there's all kinds of things you've seen. I mean, there's cameras.
Yeah.
You don't have to get the Ring. There's all kinds of different ones, but there's cameras. There's different kind of lights you can have.
And there's the old-fashioned way, too. Like, we lose track of the fact that your neighbor, knowing your neighbor, being friendly with your neighbor, letting your neighbor know when you're out of town, letting your neighbor know when you're not going to be home at the normal time, and communicating with them goes a long way. Like, with my neighbor at Christmas time, we text each other to say, hey, there's a package on your back porch, something just arrived, because we had packages stolen. So, like...
my neighbor would kill me.
Do you remember Mrs. You're younger than us, but do you remember Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched? She was always looking out the window, telling Abner what was going on.
What was her name? Oh God, it was from the show Bewitched. Sorry, we're dating ourselves.
Her husband was Abner.
Abner. I can't remember.
Gladys.
Gladys.
Yeah. Gladys Kravitz.
She was always looking out the window, like seeing. Yeah. She knew everything that was going on.
But no one's robbing the house next door because Gladys is on it, right? But, being a little nosy and just being aware of your neighborhood and your neighbors and being, a helpful, really not a Mrs. Kravitz, but a helpful neighbor. But being in touch with your neighbor and saying, hey, I'm going out of town. Or, we're actually going to be, gone for several hours into the night tonight. Like, you drive up to the mountains or whatever. So, if you see someone around the house, we're not going to be there. Yeah. Just communicate with your neighbors. And, they used to have the neighborhood watch, something similar to that. But just get to know the people around you and let them feel comfortable coming to you, too. That's the biggest thing we can do in this whole isolated society that we have now, and being on our phones all the time and, living our lives online. We lose sight of the fact that our best security is just being with the people around us. Yeah.
Well, that's like even... I live in a super, super ridiculously quiet neighborhood. Yeah. So
until you moved in.
Seriously, we were not anymore, but we were the loudest people. But it's super quiet, so you can hear. You know what I mean? Like if someone were to be Like, there's one time I thought it was a child screaming, and I was like, oh my God, what's that? It was a
fox.
stupid Fisher cat.
Oh.
Which
they
freaked me
sound
out.
terrible.
Yeah.
But I thought it was someone, I'm like, is a child being abused? Like,
Yeah.
I like listen, and if I ever heard like one of my neighbors scream, I would like, because I know my elderly neighbor next door
Yeah.
is all alone. Like,
Yeah.
I know that that's not the norm.
Yeah.
It's a little harder in Manchester. We're always on Facebook,
It's
like on,
loud,
our
right.
ward page. Like, was that a gunshot or firecrackers?
Right.
Oh,
Like-
please, they do that in my community too. Did you hear that sound? Oh my God.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I'm in Concord. It's the Concord community page on Facebook is always like, what is that noise down over here?
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things, so in my neighborhood, you know how most people ignore car alarms, especially if you live in the city. They just ignore car
Yeah,
alarms.
they do.
Yeah.
But in my neighborhood, if something was happening and I needed help, I could just keep pressing on my car alarm, and my neighbors would call the police. Like, whether they knew it was for me or not to help me, they'd know something was wrong.
Yeah.
Or they would at least be aggravated and want it to stop.
Yeah.
So it might not work in a different neighborhood, but if you know, like Victoria said, if you know your neighbors, they would know that that's not normal.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you can use. There's all kinds of different things you can use to alert, someone that something's going on.
Yeah.
Because you just never know.
Yeah.
And you have to use pretty much anything because you don't know where you're going to be in your house at any given time.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I actually have big cans of pepper spray by each of my doors because you never know.
Yeah.
What if I answer my door and,
Well, we were training and someone said wasp spray is good because you have wasp spray in the house usually, right? And as a mom, it's keep it up high where your kids can't get it, but it goes really far. Wasp spray goes really far.
And you have to be careful. You have to read the can because if it says you cannot use on people, you can get in trouble for trying to protect yourself using something that you're not supposed to.
Just scratch it off.
Really?
I shouldn't say that. But that's another reason why you practice the pepper spray because you don't know how far it goes, right?
Yeah.
You want to know the distance of the pepper spray that you're carrying. Do you have to be 6 inches from somebody, or can it be 2 feet?
Yeah.
And there's different kinds.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wouldn't carry it until I took training.
Yeah.
And it was just a few hour class. It was really good. We actually I became an instructor too. I just have to do one other part, but
And the same thing with firearms. You should not carry. We get too many people come to us and say, my husband has a gun, so if anything happens, it's in the house. No. You need to know how to safely use that firearm. And if you've got children, you need to know how to clear that gun too, to make sure there's no ammunition in it, and make sure it's safe for storage. And you really need to know if you have a firearm in your house, even if it's not yours. You need to know how to safely handle that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And how would, if somebody did have a firearm in the house, what's the best way to store it if you have children and introduce it to your children?
That's up to the person,
It
to
really
the
is.
individual. Some children, it all depends on the maturity. I mean, we have 9-year-old little girls who can shoot and come to some of our classes or events that we've had.
Boys tend to have less. They have to be a little bit older before they have that impulse control. And I watched a really interesting documentary. I think it was on 60 Minutes, and they took these families that are were Second Amendment supporters. They trained their children from young ages. They all went through the Eddie Eagle training, which is a training for children. And in Eddie Eagle training, there's like this little song. It's something like "Stop, Walk Away, Get an Adult." Right? It's this little song that they do.
If they come upon a
Yeah.
firearm.
So they had all these kids. They brought them into a classroom, and they put guns in the rooms. Now they were like, totally safe. They weren't loaded. They couldn't fire anything. But all of the little boys, even though they knew the rules, picked it up, and terrifyingly, they all looked down the barrel,
Oh God.
even though they knew not to. But it was in a different environment. It was with
Yeah.
other toys, so they were playing with it, and some of them even sang the little chant while they were playing with it. Now the girls walked away, got an adult, didn't mess with it. They had a little conversation about it, maybe what should we do, but in the end they didn't touch it.
Yeah.
And they said that boys' impulse control just takes longer for them to be able to control the situation.
Yeah.
And with the girls, they only touched it like if the gun was pink.
Yeah.
They did because they thought that it was a toy. They didn't realize it was a real firearm. So, it was interesting to watch because, like I said, to have 2 boys and, they had training through Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and I trained them. But it made me look at it in a different way and say, okay, so even though I've done all the right things, probably not old enough for them. I need to keep it locked up. I need to keep it away.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that they understand
Mm-hmm.
that if they see a firearm anywhere, they don't touch it anywhere. Because they could be in the trails at the park and someone threw something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you just never know. Or at a friend's house.
Yeah.
Always assume it's real. Never assume it's a toy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the point that you said where, they saw that, if it was pink or something, they assumed it was a toy.
Yeah.
I think that could be a pretty good lesson, too. Make sure you're not, I just saw on Facebook somebody had got, a revolver, all, fixed up. So it's like a Wonder Woman revolver.
Yeah.
And it looked beautiful.
We like pretty things.
It's now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that looks like a toy.
It does. That's why you make sure it's unloaded, it's clear, and it's safe, and it's locked away from your children.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it depends on each individual.
Yeah.
How they want to lock them up. There's all kinds of a slew of different kinds of safes. You could have a safe right in your nightstand that's a key or a punch and a number or your fingerprints or biometric. So there's all kinds of things, but people have to do what's right for them because if you do need it, you need to get to it quickly.
Yeah.
So that's really keeping it safe, but also so that you can get to it if you need it.
And hiding it isn't enough. There
No.
was another thing.
No.
Children always know where to find it because they did another thing like that. Do you know where it is? And kids would walk into their dad's closet, go up to the top shelf, and know that it was under some sweaters, right? So the dad's it's way up high. They can't get it, and it's hidden. Or it wasn't. They know exactly how to get to it.
Wow.
So you have to be.
That's scary.
Nobody knows exactly what your child will do, even though you train them up and you do all the right things and have the conversation. They're still developing. They still don't make really great decisions, or they wouldn't need us, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to treat them like that. Okay, I'm going to keep teaching the lessons. I'm going to instill these values in them. I'm going to reinforce the values that I'm teaching, but I still have to treat them like they're children.
Yeah, because regardless, they're still kids.
Yeah.
Regardless of how mature they might be.
Yeah.
Going to the range with them is one thing, right?
Yeah.
Teaching them, you're right there, but having that in your house, that's a whole different ballgame.
And so reinforcing, we're clearing the gun. The gun is always loaded. Even if, you just saw me clear it, the gun's always loaded. That's what I always tell my kids.
Yep.
Yeah. And so what would you guys recommend if I know it's going to be different for everybody because everybody's a little different, but just some starter, like a handgun, for a mom that, especially if you have small children, the idea that you might have to be carrying a child while using it.
Yeah, so there's all different ways to carry it. There's bra clips, which is great for women, especially if you're pregnant because you got lots of places to hide a really big gun.
Right. Stick a rifle back there now.
But there's belly bands that you can use to go right underneath your shirt. There's all ways to carry it. But I think the most common mistake for women is they think a small gun is going to be easier for them to use and in a defensive situation because it's small. They can carry it easier. And the reality is a lot of those small guns are really difficult to handle. They're not that accurate, and they're not fun to shoot. So anything that you want to carry needs to be something you want to practice with. You need to practice with it a lot. You need to know your firearm. You need to, be comfortable with it. And, if you have one that's small that you are comfortable with, that's great. But it's just most women have a really hard time with the small guns.
It really depends because when you go and look at a firearm, you want to make sure it fits your hands right. You want to make sure you can rack the slide if you buy a semi-automatic. You want to make sure how is the trigger pull? Is there a safety? There's all kinds of things. The most important thing is that you feel comfortable with it in your hands and being able to rack the slide because you want to practice with it. If it's not comfortable, you won't practice.
And a lot of firearms, have similar model types and different ammunition types. So, right now, you have to be able to get a gun that you can get ammunition for, and ammunition is really hard to get right now.
Yeah.
So if you get a .22, you can probably find ammunition for it. 9mm ammunition is almost impossible to get right now. 25 is easy to get. I always find 25. But 9mm, which is a really common kind of gun, is really difficult to find right now.
So yeah, it just really depends. If you have friends that have firearms, it's good to try.
Yeah.
Usually every year the Women's Defense League has to try it before you buy it. And all of our instructors bring their own firearms and our members can try them. So, we've
There
had
might be a
members.
small arsenal between all of us.
Yeah.
Our members have found firearms that they ended up buying because they got to try it.
Yeah.
Or they tried ones that they thought they wanted and didn't like them. So,
And especially older women, like those really small guns, it's hard to really rack them, and they find that their hands can't do it.
Yeah.
So, because you get older, some people have arthritis and stuff. You need something that you can really handle and manage.
Yeah. I was going to say, so I have a lot of friends that have guns as well, and we personally don't at the moment, but that is something that I'm hoping to change pretty soon. And so I've been trying to think of like which kind of a gun would be a good gun for me, and I've tried a lot of them, and I was honestly really surprised at how hard some of those slides were.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I'm like the muscle strength of a squirrel or something, but this
No,
is
some of them
so
are
hard.
really
some
tough.
of them are really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
You want something that as soon as you pick it up, you can rack it.
Yeah.
And some of them you'll get used to it, and it's muscle memory,
And
of
something
course.
that's hard for you might not be hard for somebody else, just because
Yeah.
the shape of your hand or the size of your hand. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So like I do have a small firearm. Should I say that? I don't. I take that back. I don't have any. But I've used a small firearm.
Right.
But so the rack was really hard and it wasn't right. I actually sent it back to Ruger and they fixed it and it came back and it's great now.
Really?
But I had other friends that had the same gun and they had a really hard time racking it. So
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many different kind of firearms out there.
Yeah.
It's that's what
With the new executive order, we shouldn't talk about like anything that might be. Owned
I don't have any guns.
by
I don't know what you're
anybody
talking
that
about.
we know.
I don't have any guns. We just use the league's
We
guns.
just use the league's gun.
Right.
use the
Well,
least
I
gun.
saw a great thing today, and it said, "Oh, well, apparently, if if all these amendments are not actually in stone, then we should all just like stop paying federal income tax because apparently none of it matters anymore, right?"
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
We had
doing
that
that.
terrible boating accident, and that's where I lost mine. Remember?
We were
that?
all on
Yeah.
that boat.
I know.
The entire state of New
All of
Hampshire
it.
was there. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Lake Winnipesaukee.
Pretty deep lake. I mean, who knew? Lead
And
levels
then-
might be a little something to be concerned about. This.
Please don't give him any ideas. No.
Right. And then, so for home defense, what's the best type of? I mean, obviously, I would imagine any firearm.
It's going to be the same thing, and I know, there are people that think that a shotgun is the best one for their home, but the reality is, like, you also, again, you have to have something that you are going to train with, and it's easy for you to get.
Yeah.
If you think about the size of a shotgun, how much space you need to have,
Yeah.
like if you're in your bedroom and someone comes up upon you and you have a pistol that's close to the bed or a revolver that's close to the bed, you're going to be able to access that really quickly. You can't be like, hey, wait a minute, let me grab the shotgun out of the closet or from
Yeah.
underneath the bed.
Well-
They're just the size of it.
The other thing about the
matters.
shotgun too is it sprays depending on the
Yeah.
kind of shells you use.
Yeah.
So it could spray. I mean, where's your family? Where's
Yeah.
like if something happens, do you know? Okay, where's your husband? Where's your kids? Like where
Yeah.
is everybody if you have to defend
Yeah.
yourself? So this is
Yeah.
why. A lot of times, and this was funny. This is one of the first time when I bought a firearm for the first time. The guys at the gun shop said you use your pistol to get to your shotgun or rifle.
Yeah.
So
But you have to know your target and beyond, like Kim was saying. If you
Yes.
you have it for your family's protection. If your family is behind that guy,
Yeah.
you're not going to want to take that chance.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's why one of the reasons that, and this is why police do it, when for carry and for a home pistol, you use hollow point. And the reason, I know everybody always gets all scary, hollow point, oh my God, I did when I first started shooting, I'm like, oh my God, isn't that like bad? No, the reason cops carry it and the reason you carry it for self-defense is because it stops, it's supposed to stop in the target that you're shooting at and then makes a pretty flower actually inside. So it gets embedded so it doesn't go through. That would be horrifying. Can you imagine if you're stopping an attacker and the bullet goes through and then hits an innocent person? That would be horrible.
Yeah.
That's why cops carry hollow point.
Yeah.
Because they're always in the public, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it really depends. Like I'd like a full size handgun for at home. I could never carry one. I'd be like, oh, like that.
Well, you're little.
I'm short. And like I can't carry it anyway because I'm short. But so you could have, that's an option. I mean, it's really what you feel comfortable with, what you'll practice with, and what you can find ammo with. For.
Yeah.
That too.
And that was another point that I was going to make as well, because I know, like, in the movies, you know, they shoot somebody and then that's, like, the end of it. But, like, in real life, they go through walls and they can go through, like, cars.
And you can miss.
And you
so
can,
no matter how much you practice, you can miss.
Yeah.
Because you're in a situation where you're like this, you're not at the range breathing the way you're supposed to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, you are in an intense situation where you're fighting for your life and you're about to do something that you never wanted to do. No one wants to shoot somebody and kill them.
Yeah.
Like, that's the last thing that's not why you carry. You carry so you hope that you're never in that situation, but if you are, it's your life against someone else's, you're going to have to make that decision, right? But even as accurate as you think you are, you can still miss, and most people don't hit with their first shot.
And there's a whole psychological thing that happens when you're in that situation as well. Sort of you slow down. So it's better to be safe than sorry if you can. But yeah, I mean, think about it.
That's why they say when they see these videos and they say, well, the police shot like 7 times. Well,
he probably
they
had
to. The guy was probably still standing when he fired the first few and needed to.
But if somebody's on drugs too, if you have a 6'4" meth head who's crazy on drugs, you think that one bullet's probably not going to stop him. You know, so that's why when they say, and it drives me insane when gun controllers say, you could only have limited amount of ammunition in your fire magazine. I'm like, do you have ESP to know how many rounds I'm going to need?
Or how many?
What if it's 3 attackers?
Right, exactly.
We've seen home invasions. There's usually more than one. It's not usually just one. There's a couple. And that's we've seen kids who use AR-15 style rifles. Kids, because they're easy to shoot, because they use that for home defense. You don't know what you're going to need. That's the whole point. So
it would be great if you knew ahead of time.
It would be awesome.
You know,
I would just prep for it. Just call the police ahead.
Plan ahead, kids.
This is the night that we're going to be attacked. So just booby trap the house.
But that's the thing that's why we usually tell women too to carry concealed, because the attacker knows that you are going to be the victim before you ever know what's happening. Right? They always have the help me.
What?
The words just left me.
I don't know what the words you were trying to.
So
they always have the advantage.
Oh yeah.
Because they know what they're doing, and you are always taken by surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did have a question about that though, because open carry versus concealed carry. If you're open carrying, obviously they can like sit there and say, okay, well there's her gun, and they can use that to their advantage to try to get it from you.
Yep.
But in the same token, do you think that might deter somebody?
Nope.
So,
they want to do you harm. Right? So if they see the firearm on you, they know that they can just disarm you, and then they can actually use it against you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's happening. They've already determined you're the victim. They've already seen your firearm. They know they can get it, and they know they can use it. And it's not just women. So I saw this dad one time, and recently actually, and he had the baby, the infant seat, and he's trying to put the baby in the back of the car, and I was walking down the sidewalk. He had his firearm in the back of his pants. Well, the firearm was sticking out of the back of his pants. Like, I could have grabbed it. It was like right up in the air, right?
Yeah.
He has no idea I'm there. He's trying to manage the car seat. God bless him. And I mean, he's his dad trying, right? And so I actually hung out for a little while until he figured out the situation, got the child in the car. He didn't know I was there while I was hanging out, but I wanted to make sure nobody came up behind him, because they could take that firearm. Now they're going to use it against him and his child, which is exactly the opposite reason that he's carrying it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and not only that, but if there's like an active shooter type situation, if they see someone open carrying, they usually try to take out the cops first or any security people first.
Because they see the firearm.
Because they see, they either assume a security person or a cop is carrying, or if they see a firearm, they know, okay, this person can try to stop me.
But if you're carrying concealed, now you have the advantage, because now you've taken them by surprise. You just turn the tables on them.
Yeah.
You know? But we always tell people to, I'll speak for myself. I tell women not to use purses. to carry. Because, I mean, if you're going to a wedding and that person's with you the entire time, you're probably safe to do it. But if you're walking down the street, they're more apt to take your purse than to attack your person.
Yeah.
And if they get that purse, now they can use your firearm against you or somebody else.
Yeah.
So I never tell people
because you've
women
just
to
armed
carry
a dangerous person.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't ever suggest people do that.
No.
Yeah.
Ever.
We had this great video somebody posted on the Facebook page for the Women's Defense League, and it was this guy drove up beside her and went to take her purse, and she threw the purse, got in the guy's car, and stole his car, which I thought was brilliant, right? I never would have thought about that if I hadn't seen it. Brilliant, except if you're carrying a firearm in your purse, you just armed him to use somebody else to get, now he's going to carjack somebody else with your firearm, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And plus, we've heard of horrifying situations where children have gotten them. The one was that Colorado or Utah?
It was in the purse, so she was carrying one.
In the store, she was shopping, and the 2-year-old or 3-year-old went in and ended up killing the mother.
Gosh.
Yeah. Just was fishing around inside the purse and must have.
It was a brand new
purse
that was specific for firearms, but apparently, toddlers are pretty smart. They go into places and
They're ridiculously smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the other reason
Yeah.
as well. Is on your body, it's way safer, and so are you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just had a situation in Lee, New Hampshire, I think like a couple months ago in the Market Basket in Lee, where they had an active shooter in the parking lot. So
I didn't hear about this.
I mentioned that, the active shooter situation. So, it was in the parking lot. I remember, hearing about it when it was happening. But basically the guy was there and he was shooting off some rounds in the middle of the parking lot, and then they evacuated, it was in like a traffic circle type of thing. So
I know where it is. I've been there.
Yeah, so everything got evacuated, and like the SWAT team showed up and, nobody got hurt, which was great, but, that's kind of a scary situation, especially
totally
if you're
scary.
shopping with
I
your
will
kids.
just say that guy's lucky to be alive, because
Yeah.
there were probably a lot of people around him carrying a firearm that were waiting to see if he was going to do something stupid.
Yeah.
And probably determined
Especially
that
up there.
they could get away and call the police and, let them
Yeah.
deal with it. But he's lucky that people didn't. Yeah.
I've been there, so I know that area. It's very small,
Yeah.
smallish area, but it's all shopping.
Yeah.
It's a little plaza.
So, in a situation like that, are there any sort of tips, like, for an active shooter situation? What somebody can do?
Leave.
Yeah.
Get out of the situation if you can.
You're not combat trained. You need to just leave. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you're face to face with a guy, again, it's, you're defending your own person, but you don't have an obligation to take out this guy. Especially if your children are with you, you get your kids and you get to safety.
Yeah.
Because somebody that's doing something like that is clearly insane.
Yeah.
So they're not going to care if there's kids, women, what I mean? It's the first thing you should do is try to get away.
Yeah. That actually happened, not active shooter, but we were in Walmart today. I was with Seamus, and we were getting ready to check out, and there was some commotion happening over by customer service, and the guy was swearing and carrying on. There was a lot of activity over in that direction, and I said, get over here, and we started walking away, not towards the doors though, because that's where they were moving toward, right? So we started moving away a little bit. I knew where the other exits were in the store. Immediately I started thinking about, how do I get him out of this situation?
Yeah.
And that's really, I saw that there was security there. They were on this guy, and my job was to get me and my child out of there.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, exactly.
It ended up being, I think he was stealing something and was angry that he got caught. There was nothing, it didn't, but things had happened.
But you don't know. That's you don't know.
And things had happened at that Walmart before, so there was a shooting in the parking lot last year, I think.
People are just, there's too many crazy people, and we don't deal with that situation like we should in this country anymore. We just drug people up, and that kind of makes them even worse. So, you just never know. That's the problem. You never know. People will say, "What are you afraid of? Why do you carry a gun?" I'm not
afraid of anything.
I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I don't know what's going to happen. And again, the same reason. I have a fire extinguisher in my house.
Yeah. There was a story, this little old lady got pulled over. It's like one of these little Facebook stories, and the cops pulled her over and, said, do you know why I'm pulling you over? I don't know. But anyway, she like pulled a 9mm out of her glove box, like, hold on, officer. And then she pulled one like out from underneath, and she had like 5 firearms on her. And the cop said, "Can I ask you what you're afraid of?" And she said, "Not a damn thing." You know?
That's
Yeah.
cute.
But I have friends that say, "Why do you need to carry it at the grocery store? Like, are you that paranoid?" No, I'm not. But if I knew when I was going to be attacked or somebody else was going to be attacked,
that would be perfect.
You know, great. Yeah. I would never carry, except
Yeah.
on that day when I looked at my phone and said, "Today's the day.
I'm getting attacked." Exactly.
Get ready."
Because, you know, it's weird. Obviously, we know things happen in all different kinds of situations. It doesn't matter where it is.
Well, I started carrying because I was a state rep, and as a Republican conservative woman, I was a target for the Democrats who were so mean and nasty, and they would get so much hate spiraling up against me that I actually went for training. I had carried when I was, younger, but once I had my kids, I actually didn't because I just didn't feel comfortable with my kids carrying. And then I went and said, listen, they're with me all the time. My husband works 2 jobs. I'm out in the public. These people are trying to get people to hate me, and they're crazy people out there.
Yeah.
So I started getting training again. I started carrying, and that's really how I found my way deeply into the Women's Defense League. It went from being people that I knew to I need to be a part of this.
Well, that's actually why I started carrying as well. I used to live in Massachusetts, and I'm a political activist, and I was very active in a union fight. Years ago. This is years ago. And I was getting death threats, stalking. Thank God my name is very common because.
Oh my God.
But they were stalking, me where I worked, where they thought I worked, where they thought I lived. All these different things. I was getting death threats, and I'm like, I can't stay here because Massachusetts, you have to give up your firstborn to be able to practice your human right to self-defense.
Yeah.
So I moved up here, and that was why.
The Second Amendment community in New Hampshire. If I would just say, like, I'm going to an event and I was concerned, we would have friends there that we knew were carrying, that were there for us no matter what. Like, we've had huge Second Amendment events at the State House. And, there'd be some protesters there. Everyone's carrying. Like, we had, how many hundred people last time?
700.
Wow.
Prior to COVID, just before COVID actually hit. And everyone's carrying. And, of course, I feel like it's the safest place I could possibly be on that day.
Yeah, we always have security at our events anyway.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there was last year, the year before, there was one guy sitting on a lawn chair on the sidewalk.
With his sign.
With his sign. He goes all places. He goes all over the place.
He was a very lazy protester.
Yeah. But, it's just, you never know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Because
you
that's
have
the problem.
these people, like I said, the rhetoric is so violent right now.
Yeah.
And hate-filled. And, these people try to say that Republicans are full of hate. We're absolutely not. We're always trying to lift people up, empower people. That's why we have the Women's Defense League. We want to empower other women to take charge of their own.
That's on our theme, women empowering women. And what the league is actually nonpartisan. We have members from all walks of life, members from all political parties. The only political fight we ever get into is Second Amendment related.
Yeah.
That's it. And we don't get involved in any other kind of politics. People have asked us.
Personally we do, but not as a
personally we do, right? Exactly. It's like
obviously, right?
Personally is a big difference. The whole different ball game. But yeah, as the league, it's solely Second Amendment stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but you're so afraid of what. Well, even now, like with executive orders and all this, there's so much misinformation and lies that are spread about your Second Amendment rights. And it's really sad to see that our youth are turning against the Second Amendment. Yeah. They want people
They're
to
against the First Amendment because they're being told that
only if they have the First Amendment, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part. We could never have an honest discussion about firearms or the Second Amendment or our rights because the gun controllers are never honest. Ever. They lie continually. And the media enhances that, enables that, encourages it, and they're participating.
Yeah. The media is so misinformed about all of this, and they use terms that they know just incite these feelings of anger and hatred towards the Second Amendment, and it's terrible. It really is.
To me, the Second Amendment is the single most women's rights issue, important women's rights issue in modern history.
And
Yeah.
we have so many women that carry because they were in abusive situations, or they had a stalker, or they had, some situation where they knew that they couldn't protect themselves with their hands. Like, that's why they came for training. And when you see some of these laws that are being discussed and they want to have waiting periods, so there's a lot of women who are murdered in that waiting period because they knew. And the cops can do very little, honestly, until the person does something.
A restraining order is
to get
just
a
a piece of
restraining
paper.
order, but until the person has actually committed a crime, there's nothing that the police can do. And oftentimes, a restraining order just makes them more angry. The person that's stalking you makes them more angry.
Yeah.
And so women have been killed in that waiting period because they knew their lives were at risk. They wanted to get a firearm. They were forced to wait because of the laws in their state.
Yeah.
And they were murdered by that person before they got the firearm.
Wow. Yeah.
One of the 911 calls I listened to was like that. She borrowed a firearm from her friend that day, and that night her stalker came and tried to kill her.
Oh my gosh.
She refused to be a victim and was a survivor.
Wow.
That was one of the it's chilling. That one 911 call.
Giving you goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's like
That one 911 call is the most insane one I've ever heard. I mean, she's on with dispatch. She's telling them everything. Dispatch realizes this is a guy who's been stalking her, sliced her tires. So they know he's on record of doing all these things.
Yeah.
They sent the cops there as fast as they could. She would have been dead. The cops literally were running up the stairs as she was being choked by her attacker, where mind you, she ran into her closet, locked her bedroom door, ran into her closet, and he was choking her, and she killed him.
Wow.
So she tried to avoid the confrontation.
She tried to avoid she went away.
Yeah.
She called the cops. The cops got there as fast as they could.
Yeah.
Especially moved even faster because they knew this guy was insane.
Yeah.
And she had to, if she didn't have that firearm, she would be dead today.
Yeah.
I don't understand why gun controllers don't grasp that. Gun control only creates more victims.
Yeah.
It
bad
enables
guy can
criminals.
always get the gun. The bad guy can always get the gun.
Criminals will use anything, and if they know you're not armed, they don't even need a gun. In that case, they could just use a knife, like UK.
Yeah.
UK is a prime
Or
example.
acid.
Yeah. Oh
They use
God,
acid in the
yeah.
UK too.
Really?
Yeah.
They actually had in the UK. They actually had a knife buyback program after years from banning guns because criminals were using knives to get innocent victims because you can't
Nobody has
protect
a gun.
yourself.
Yeah.
Only in the
Oh my god.
in the country you could have rifles or I'm not sure about the city, but I know in the country I shot my first rifle in England. That's why I left because I was on a farm. But it just gun control just creates more victims, and women especially, if they want to carry, should be able to, and it shouldn't be made more difficult.
No, I was having a conversation with a guy, and he said, "Well, why do you have to teach them firearms? Why can't you teach them like how to swipe a knee or swipe a leg?"
Lord.
And I
I've
was
had
like,
that
"Okay,
one.
so that I think it's great when women go for training to figure out how to use their body weight and do things. I think it's great. However."
Yeah.
It takes years of training to be able to be in a situation where you actually can be successful in that, especially if the guy is taller than you, heavier than you. And he knows you were the victim before you know you were the victim.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, I don't know why you have to carry a gun. Why can't you just do that? I'm like, you're speaking like a man who isn't afraid of somebody physically taking him over.
Yeah.
I have spine issues. I have tendinitis. There's no way I'm gonna try to lift a finger to fight someone. I mean, I will try, but I'm gonna be like down for the count within 2 seconds just because I have so many different things from.
It's like, let me just put down my children and fight you.
Right.
Right, exactly. Or if you have a child, right, exactly. Meantime, you're like, oh my God, where are my kids? What's going on?
Or if you're pregnant, just like.
But it was just so typical of, and he wasn't saying it to be rude or
They're
anything.
not, yeah.
Just didn't
But
understand.
men don't understand what it is to be physically vulnerable, and that's why, we have these conversations about the bathrooms and stuff. The bathroom is one of the most vulnerable places that you can be. There's one door.
Yeah.
And the bathroom is usually positioned somewhere that's outside of the mainstream. It's usually, think of the mall.
Especially at malls.
Yeah, I think the Mall of New Hampshire, you have that big hallway that you go down, the bathroom's way at the end. Or even in people's homes. Like, the bathroom is usually, if you go to a party at somebody's house, the bathroom is usually off of another area where the party isn't. So they're usually a secluded area anyway. So you've got one door. If someone comes in, you're not getting out. And if it's a guy that wants to do harm, you have a very little chance of getting out of that situation the way that you want to get out of it.
Another 911 call, same thing. Girl, the guy was trying to break down the bathroom door. She locked herself in the bathroom. She had a shotgun.
Wow.
Saved herself. There's tons of them. They don't talk about it in the media much. You know what I mean? It's not brought up much because, God forbid, a woman protects herself. There was a 65-year-old grandmother a few years ago in New Hampshire who, there was a group of teenagers, early 20s, that were actually followed her from her job, which she didn't realize it. She didn't realize it, I don't think, at first. And when she got out of her vehicle to go into wherever the apartment complex she was going to, a 19-year-old kid attacked her. Well, she happened to be carrying.
Wow.
Yep. Again, she was not a victim.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know in New Hampshire we have constitutional carry.
Right.
And that includes what do they call it? The doctrine or the castle doctrine. So
Stand your ground. That's actually a different law, but yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
But we have all of those,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, we do.
So can you guys explain those? What are those exactly for people
So
who
constitutional carry means that you don't need to get permission to carry a firearm concealed.
We could
A lot
always
of us-
open carry.
Yeah, a lot of us still do, just in case laws change, or you can't carry on certain properties like school grounds unless you do have your license. I always get confused. New Hampshire license to
Pistol
carry
revolver.
permit,
Yeah.
right? It's a permit.
License.
Permit,
Oh.
license.
PRL. Pistol revolver license.
Oh,
Sorry.
license. Okay. And people call it pistol permit. That's why I always get
Yeah, people call it much
like it's
different.
interchangeable. So you need to have that if you're going to be on school grounds and have it, or certain other properties that they might have. And I still get it because you never know when the laws are going to change, and it's just better to have it. I think it's $10 for 4 years or something like that.
5 years. We extended it in that bill. I get it because I have my Utah concealed carry, so I can carry in more states. I can conceal carry in more states.
Yeah.
It's a class you can take here, and you
Okay.
have to apply, and you can do this for other states too, but Utah just broadens how many states we can conceal carry in.
But there
That's all.
was discrimination happening when it came to women getting their license to carry.
So originally, and this is one of the reasons we wanted to get rid of this legislation, originally chiefs of police or whoever was the person that it could be, in some places selectmen who don't have a chief of police, if you applied for your pistol revolver license, they could, for any reason, they didn't need a reason, deny it to you.
So if you went to high school with this kid, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't go to the prom with him, and now he's your
still holding a
selectman,
grudge.
right? You
Yeah.
don't get. He can just say no.
And
Right.
we had women who complained and who said, their husband was able to get one, but they weren't. Because the chief of police was like, why do you need one? We've had a few women
my
like that.
gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. A few women like that.
It's amazing that this day and age, that kind of crap is still happening.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons we pushed this legislation. It wasn't actually known as constitutional carry. It was getting rid of a law that was put in for racist reasons almost 100
was
years ago.
discriminatory.
It was
It was
an intentionally
yep.
discriminatory law. I mean,
Because they didn't want the Polish, the Irish,
The
the
immigrants.
Italians, the black immigrants
Oh my
to
gosh.
have to be able to carry, because they were starting to rise up against the people that employed them, and
Yep.
they didn't want them to be able
forming
to.
unions and stuff like
So
that. Yeah.
they
Oh my
disarmed
gosh.
them. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
they
they
made
could
it so
only get
difficult.
it if they knew somebody, and they could get they were
Oh
they
my
were approved.
gosh.
I
to get
joke.
them. Yeah.
I joke about this, but it's actually not even funny. My grandmother, who was a suffragette, she could carry a firearm any way she wanted before she got the right to vote.
Wow.
And then we had to fight against certain people in the legislature who didn't want us to be able to carry whatever way we wanted that we felt safe and not be discriminated against. That was the gist of that bill. Is we did the research. A former board member who moved did massive amounts of research to find out. Most gun control laws were actually put into place years ago for racist reasons.
Yeah.
All
my
gun control
gosh.
laws
Yeah.
are racist, discriminatory laws. So when we
I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Most of the gun control laws that are in place were put in for intentionally discriminatory reasons.
Wow.
Most of them racism. but it's different. Now you can be misogynist, sexist
Yeah.
against somebody who's LGBT. I mean, you could cross the gamut with it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's why that's one of the reasons I think we were able to win on that, because it was clearly getting rid of discrimination that was allowed for 100 years.
Yeah.
So, how can you argue against that?
Right, exactly.
No,
Yeah.
sorry, we're not going to get rid of discriminate.
Yeah. Although nowadays there's a lot of crazy arguments for
Okay. Okay, yeah. This was a legit argument.
Right.
Because we had cases.
Yeah.
We had, we had actual cases. We had women who came forward. As a matter of fact, one of our former board members, her police chief tried to, actually a couple of our board members had issues. One police chief didn't sign her permit. We had to go to court for him with one of the best Second Amendment attorneys in all of the Northeast, Evan Knappen.
Okay.
After the law passed, some police chiefs were not happy about it. And they weren't signing on the pistol revolver license. Well, if they're not signing it, it's technically not valid.
Yeah.
Right? Or it could be, depending on what happens. So she had to take him to court and they had to sign it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
We've dealt with all kinds of stuff, and it's like, why are you messing with women?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're trying to do something wrong. We just want to protect ourselves and our families.
They should know we don't back down. Any married man should know that women don't back down.
Right.
I think so. I think a lot of people know we don't now, but
And then so there is the Castle Doctrine as well. So that's here in New Hampshire.
Yep.
And what exactly is that?
It means that if somebody, like in Massachusetts, if someone breaks into your home, you have to leave your property. They don't have the Castle Doctrine. You're supposed to leave your home.
You're supposed to run.
Yeah.
And get away.
Yeah. Here, if somebody enters your property, you have the right to use your firearm to defend your property.
In public as well.
And in public,
In public as well. They changed this. It's only like 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, they changed it because before you weren't allowed to protect yourself in public. I'm like, that's
what's
stupid.
The point? Yeah.
Most people are going to try to get away anyway. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to deal with it.
Right.
But if you can't, I mean, I certainly am not outrunning anyone, especially someone who's twice my size in height. So you are allowed to protect yourself or others around you in the vicinity if there's a fear of death.
So now you've told the whole audience, you can't run, you can't defend yourself, you're on the back, so maybe you might want to tell them that you might have a firearm on you. Maybe.
Just assume I do.
Okay.
At all times. But what if you're an elderly woman or you're disabled or, you know what I mean? Or you have kids.
Yeah.
Are you going to run and leave your kid behind? No, you're not.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
But you can protect yourself and your property, especially if you feel like you're in imminent fear of being killed.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there aren't repercussions and you're not going to have to go to court or anything else. It just means that the law is on your side, but people still might take you to court. You might have to defend yourself. That's why there's organizations out there like Legal Shield where you can actually buy insurance.
U.S. Law Shield.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
And you buy insurance, and then if you ever have to use your firearm, they have lawyers that come and defend you.
So what'll happen is, what changed really about the bill is before you were presumed guilty as opposed to innocent before guilty. Now you're presumed innocent before being assumed guilty.
Gotcha. Okay.
For doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Before the prosecutors would just make an assumption that you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Protect yourself.
Yeah.
And there would be more, try to find the evidence, you go to court, whatever. Now it's opposite. They have to actually prove that you intentionally did something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder if it's obviously self-defense. And you'll see cases around it, and we've seen there hasn't been that many cases where within like a week they're like, there's not going to be any charges. Because they do investigate.
Right.
Regardless, they'll investigate.
But we always tell people, like, there are legal consequences, even if
anytime
you're
you fire that,
right,
yep.
And there are emotional consequences that you have to deal with after the fact too. Like nobody comes out of it unscathed.
No.
It's, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even if you feel completely justified, it's just not normal to take somebody else's life.
Oh my God, no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I abhor violence.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, really hate violence.
Yeah.
That's why listening to 911 calls was extremely emotionally, like, horrifying to me because I just don't like violence. Movies is a different story, but even some violence I can't handle in movies.
Yeah.
Unless it's a woman who has a gun and take care of herself. I love John Wick. That's different. I like those kind of movies, but I like, other kind of, where it's violent.
John Wick is like one of the most violent movies I've ever seen.
Yes, but it's awesome because he kicks butt and puppy.
Anyways, yeah, but only one puppy makes it.
I know. Shh. Don't be a spoiler, just in case. But so it's now I lost my train of thought because you brought up John Wick. Oh, I was saying I don't. Most people don't like violence. I don't think.
Yeah.
And especially women, and that's the last thing you want to have to do is that. So definitely, it's going to have repercussions regardless of what the outcome is.
Yeah.
As long as you save yourself, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so that's why when they try to get out there and say, like, you're bloodthirsty, people, and you just want to have these guns, because nobody wants to have to use it for self-defense, but we train for it just in case the worst happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I would hate to have to take someone's life. I would hate it more for the police staff show up at my home and tell my kids that they don't have a mother anymore.
Yeah.
I would rather be judged by 12 than carried out by 6.
Yeah.
That's a common saying.
Yeah.
I would way rather defend myself than wish I had but couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's responsible. It's not an easy choice to make.
They try to make it seem like we're all a bunch of yahoos that want to just take, and it's just not the way that it is. We take it very seriously, and that's why we train women. We're all volunteers.
Yeah.
We don't get paid for anything that we do. And it takes a lot of time. It's a full day of training when we do it, and we do it once a month. We try to. So it's a big time commitment that we give back, but we take it really seriously, and we want people to have the knowledge to be able to make these decisions and handle a firearm the way, And some people might come for training and say, I didn't like it. I don't want to touch a firearm. But we've also had people that
I don't think I've ever had anyone like that.
I
usually are smiling.
That was really cautious after. She said, it's going to take me some time.
Oh, that's totally acceptable.
And
yeah,
she was older. She was much older.
Yeah.
And she had some hand issues, and I think that was it. She wasn't comfortable because of her hands. But we had that woman that came up that she had actually been shot as a child. Do you remember that? She came up?
Yep.
So you can correct me if I get the story wrong, but I believe her mother had a firearm. Her brother picked it up and shot her by accident. She never wanted anything to do with firearms. She came up because she didn't want to live in fear anymore, came through the training, and when she shot that firearm, I think we were all a little,
Yeah.
Because you could see she was no longer fearful, and she was empowered. She actually was empowered by the training, and she wasn't afraid anymore, and she said it. So, that was, we have a
lot of different stories like that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. So if somebody was interested in doing some of your classes, how could they find you guys, and, what kind of stuff do you guys offer, and, how often?
Women's Defense League, we have a Facebook page, a main, Facebook page. We also have a website, wdlnh.org. They can also email info@wdlnh.org and ask questions about membership, about trainings. If they look at our photos, we have all photos from most of our events. They can see all the different kinds of things we do.
I'm just going to clarify. So it's the letters
Did I spell it wrong?
WDLNH. No, but the way you said it almost sounded like and H.
Oh.
WDL and H. So that's just the letters WDLNH, Women's Defense League, New Hampshire.
Yep. So for members, we have shoot with the girls or skill building type training for advanced shooters, where it's actually targets that law enforcement have used in some cases, where you have to call out a number or call out a shape or a color. It's to make you think before you shoot.
Yeah.
So it's more practice. Sometimes we have more advanced classes like holster training.
Sometimes we just have fun classes like we're shooting at snowmen and things like that too, or pumpkins.
That's our favorite, our annual holiday party. We do that. And next week for our members, we're going to Chunky's. In Manchester, we're watching Terminator.
Oh my God!
We rented it out.
The league bought Terminator, and now we wanted to watch basically a badass women movie.
Oh my. That's awesome.
And it's three different ages of women, and we rented out a private room and for girls' night out.
That is so cool.
So we do stuff like that, and then we have Refuse to be a Victim classes and
Concealed carry training.
concealed carry training. That's one of our most popular classes.
Yeah.
The try it before you buy it. Gun cleaning class. If you shoot them, you got to be able to clean them. You
Yeah.
can't just hand them off to your husband.
Yeah.
Which is
Gotta
always
be
an
able to-
interesting class because we're like, let's pull up YouTube and see how,
Right.
because
Everybody brings in a different gun.
every firearm is different.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they have manuals with them, but now there's so many great training videos on
That's so
YouTube that
funny.
you can look it up, and it's just a little easier to follow along than looking at the
Yeah.
actual manual.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. We have an annual picnic for our members. That's always fun.
That's always
they
really
bring the
fun.
family and
Yeah.
the kids shoot. Last year, one of the guys that was there, his wife's a member, and he taught his daughter to shoot for the first time.
oh my
She
god.
loved
A
it.
pink
She had a little
cricket.
pink, yeah.
Yeah,
little pink
That's
it was
firearm.
really cool. It was so, that's the kind of stuff that we're like, oh, you know. But yeah, we do a lot of times we'll have a members kids shoot where we teach members kids how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the year. We switch things up. We
I'll
also
tell you,
teach
during COVID. That was one of the things that I could still do with my kids. We could go to the range because it's outdoors, and we could go shooting and talk. Especially boys, like they're not emotional people, right?
Yeah.
So they don't talk about a lot of stuff. But when you're at the range and you start having conversations, they'll talk to you about everything. It's
Yeah.
a great bonding experience with your
Yeah.
kids, really. But it was something that we could still do safely outdoors, and we really enjoyed that time together.
And we held classes all through this whole time, except
Yeah.
for April and May. We canceled. Well, we had our big rally in March.
Mm-hmm.
We canceled the shoot for that month, April and May, and then we started back up in June, and we have not stopped since.
We had the big rally in March, and then within 24 hours, the governor shut down the state.
They shut down the state.
Like
Yeah,
we had just snuck in there, yeah.
Yeah.
we
you're like,
literally
And
had
everybody
like,
was safe. We didn't have any incidents.
No, we've
Yeah.
never had anything as a result of classes. Yeah,
I mean, but we, when we're in a small classroom and stuff, we have the waivers and we ask people the questionnaires before they come, and they can wear the masks to make them feel
if they
comfortable
want.
if they
yeah,
want.
Yeah.
it's their choice.
When I'm out training there, I make sure that I have a mask because I'm so close to somebody when I'm training
Yeah.
them, and I put it on for their comfort.
Yeah,
Because like I said, we have a lot of elderly women that come. So
Yeah.
I do
But they
it
know
for their
ahead of
comfort.
time that this is you're going to be indoors. Your instructor cannot be far away from you.
Yeah.
They have to be right there. So, but it's unbelievable the amount. We could hold a class every week and it would be full.
Yeah.
Our classes fill up within usually 24 hours, and there's
Wow.
a waiting list. And then people want to know when the next class is.
Wow.
It's that we don't even advertise. We just put it on Facebook. That's it.
Wow.
Our
And I-
website and
yeah.
Facebook. That's it. We don't
And
have
I
to
always have
advertise.
women reaching out to me saying, "Can you give me a heads up when it's coming?" I'm
Yep.
like, "Become a member because then you'll get the heads up."
Yeah, you
Right?
get the newsletter and you'll know.
Yeah.
But seriously, that's so
Wow.
many women now and a lot of the reasons they'll join is because or want to learn is because they're the world's crazy right now.
Yeah.
That's what this, especially during all this COVID craziness going on.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a lot of women who have realized, holy cow, I need to be able to protect myself.
Yeah.
Because
We get some widows too that come in because they always counted on their husband to be that person for them, and now
Yep.
they're alone. So
Yeah.
and they have guns in the house. And we had one woman who was afraid. She was terrified. She kept coming back and didn't want to shoot. She would come to a class, didn't want to shoot. Finally, she did, and she's a hardcore now.
Yeah.
She's fantastic, and she's a great shot.
Yeah.
But it takes. I know the first time I shot, my father-in-law. I shot my father-in-law's 44 semi-automatic, and it scared the crap out of me, and I wanted to leave because I don't like violence. To me, it felt violent.
Yeah.
Flames shooting out of the freaking
So
muzzle.
and we see so for us, we do the classroom first, and we practice on plastic fake guns in the classroom, and then we take them out to the range, and then we let them load one cartridge, right? And then if I know I always stumble because to people that don't know firearms, that's what they would call a bullet, but the bullet's really just the end that comes out.
Okay.
So it's a cartridge, and then they put the firearm back down, and we assess everybody. How you feeling? What did you think about that? Are you okay? Do you need
and we
help
have
with
multiple
anything?
instructors on the range.
And then if they're okay, then we let them load 5, 3,
5.
5.
1, 5, 10, 10.
Yeah, 1, 5,
10, 10, and 10.
10.
Depends, yeah.
Yeah.
So 10's a full magazine. So
But they load and unload. They practice unloading and loading with
In the-
snap caps, with fake cartridges in the classroom.
Yeah.
So, you really, you get a feel with how people are, and women. It's only women.
And they're only 22, so there's not, I mean, we call them the pew-pews because they're just little. So they're often expecting this big, you know, explosion, and they get the pew, and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
And there's no recoil, and you know what I mean? It's easy to use. So it's...
But we're with them in case the gun jams, which happens, 22, because unless you get, really good 22, it can jam. And so we're with them when that happens. And we just say, all right, it's mechanical.
And we can train them, and we show them.
And it jams. And this is what you do if that happens. And you didn't do anything wrong. It's just what happens. I mean, your car's mechanical. Sometimes things happen. Yeah. And so we're able to walk them through that and talk them through it so that they're not feeling apprehensive or scared or nervous or like they didn't do it right, Yeah.
And a lot of times, women want to come to us because their husbands tried to teach them.
Or their boyfriends.
Or their boyfriends, and it didn't work out. Yeah. Even guys will say, I can't teach my wife. I'm sending her to you. Yeah. I've had multiple guys say that.
That's why we send our kids to driver's ed, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was lucky. I had a standard, so I didn't have to teach my son how to drive. Because he could use that for the test. Yeah. But it's so a lot of times it's a different environment, I think, and we were the first, I don't know if there's actually any now, organization to teach women with having only women on the range. Staff.
I don't think that's still.
That is anywhere. There's maybe one place I don't even know about, but we're that's why we don't even have to advertise because women want to be with women only. Yeah. In this kind of area because we understand different things. We understand emotion. Yeah.
And sometimes well-meaning men will put a firearm in the hands of a woman, and it's just not right for them. It's too big for them, or it's too powerful, or whatever. They've never shot before, so it scares them.
And they don't want to shoot again.
And they don't want to shoot again.
Yeah.
And that's not our goal. We want to encourage women and empower them and have them continue to learn. Whether they come to us and learn more or they go somewhere else, we want them to continue learning.
And I will tell you that going from a 22 to a 9mm to something larger happens like that with a lot of these women. They're like, we'll see them the next time, and they've got a different firearm. Like, I had this, but I was afraid to use it, and we'll help them with that too. But once they get used to it and they understand the mechanism and they understand the safety of it, they're willing to move up into something else.
Yeah.
Some women always use a 22. Like, I like a 22.
I love a Target 22. Carry. It's so much fun.
Yeah. That Target
was 22.
Sorry. You brought last time.
I have one
I'm a
similar.
Little obsessed by that.
Oh no, I don't.
No, you don't. Lake. It's in the lake. It's in the lake.
So I do have the sponsors that I was supposed to do throughout the whole show. But,
oh my goodness.
Can we do them for you? Let us be.
So I'll just go through them real quick.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I got too caught up in the whole thing and forgot. So there's Elated Canine Training and Pet Services, LLC. They're here for your family pet's needs.
Do they take really rambunctious dogs that might be too old to learn something new?
Yes. She's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yes. So she works with all ages and breeds.
Nice.
We run day training in our home while you're at work, private lessons at your home, group lessons, and a few other tailor-made services. You can contact Jocelyn at 603-479-7253 or on the website at elatedcanine.com.
I think my dog needs Jocelyn.
I do too. Mine does too.
She's really good, seriously.
He's really good except with other dogs, and he becomes a little Cujo, and it's really embarrassing.
Yes, she would know exactly what to do. So she's actually in the middle of training my dog right now because my dog's crazy too. I have a little Papillon, and she's amazing, but she has horrible separation anxiety, and she hates her crate. And so we're working on some of those things because I think if we can get her to like the crate, the rest of it will kind of
fall into place. That's awesome.
So, and then so she says, we can't wait to help both you and your pup find the happy, healthy relationship that you're searching for. We're also going to go into Kaja Weglar. She's a clinical hypnotherapist.
I saw her on your site. You had her on your show.
Yes, she's been on a few times actually, and she's going to have another episode that's coming up.
I loved what she said about babies getting their cognitive abilities in the belly, in the womb. Right? Yes.
Yeah. So she was actually, she's really interesting anyway. But it's true, like, people don't realize There's actually a really good app called Wonder Weeks.
Their intuitiveness, I think
And
she said
they,
it was.
they pick up on a lot of the things. And there's a lot of stuff that, like, we know about scientifically.
But that's so pro-life. We love that.
So, yes.
Right?
Well, because it's true,
It
too.
is true.
Like, you know, everything that you're feeling, when you're stressed out, the cortisol levels, you know, raise, and all of that stuff goes into the womb. And we actually know that helps shape their brain.
Wow.
So, like, if a mom...
I think my mother must have been really stressed out when she was carrying me.
No, my mother
They used
probably
to give Valium, though, in, like, cocktails.
They used to give them all sorts of horrible stuff they shouldn't
You
give
need
them
to have a
anymore.
cigarette to calm your nerves. Like, they used to prescribe cigarettes.
Yes.
You know, and then your baby pops out and they spray him with DDT so mosquitoes don't get to him. The good old days, right, guys?
Yeah. Hey, we all survived. We're not normal, but we survived.
No car seats.
Got an extra limb, but, you know, we're
Yeah.
here. It's fine. So she offers personalized hypnotherapy programs designed specifically for you with your unique goals in mind. Release low vibration emotions from the past, overcome childhood traumas, and create a life that you love. Become a better mom, wife, and individual, and find your inner bliss through true self-love. Leave the past behind, overcome negative self-talk and unwanted habits, and become empowered. You can reach her at facebook.com/Kaja Weglar's Hypnotherapy. That's spelled KASIAWEGLARZ Hypnotherapy. Or you can give her a call at 603-254-6716. And she's actually had quite a few referrals from people that watch the show. So
That's
everybody
awesome.
But you could drop your dog with
go
Jocelyn, where you go get yourself fixed.
Right, exactly.
There you go. Get your dog fixed and yourself fixed.
Exactly.
There you go.
And everybody's happy.
And then the last one we have is for AK Property Services. So while your dog is getting fixed and you're fixing yourself,
They'll come fix your
AK
property.
AK Property
That's
Services.
a good day.
They're a mom and pop landscaping and hardscaping company. From yard cleanups to 3-season rooms, they can do it all. They're currently servicing the seacoast of New Hampshire, and you can find them over at akpropertyservice.com.
Your dog is fixed, your soul is fixed, and your yard looks beautiful. That's a good day.
That was perfect.
That was
Those
a
were
good
actually.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's awesome.
But thank you guys so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you guys wanted to throw out here while I still have you? Or
No, thanks for inviting
Thank
us
you
on.
for
It was
inviting
fun.
us. This was great.
You can tell we could talk about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you'd have to shut us up.
I was gonna say the problem is I can talk forever too, which is why a lot of these podcasts go to like 2 hours long. So I'm trying
That's
to
right.
trying to get you guys home to your families.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
No.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.